Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife discussion for you. And today we want to ask the question, has the best pocket knife already been invented? Now, to help answer that question, I'd love to hear you comment down below with the knife that you would say is, yeah, this is the best pocket knife. It's the best knife, probably, if not the best knife for everyone, at least the best knife for you. And let us know why that is. And that way, if you're a viewer watching this, you can look down in the comments and hopefully you get a list of great knives that maybe you'll have the exact same needs as somebody else, and therefore there'll be a great knife for you down there. But look, in the knife community, we obsess about the best. All right, many of us got into this looking for the one knife that would, rule them all. And so, just to give you an example, my own initiation into the knife world was through this knife right here, Ontario Rat Model 1. Did a bunch of research, watched a bunch of nut and fancy videos and cutlery lever videos way back then. This was probably 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more. Anyway, given all of my considerations and the money that I was willing to spend at that time, it's considerably changed. But at that time, the Rat Model 1 stood out as the knife that looked really, really perfect for me. And so I bought one, not this one, but actually the one I bought is sitting at home in a drawer. I still do have it. Um, but that, I wasn't planning to buy hundreds of knives. I wasn't planning to own 40, 50, 60, 70 knives. And probably many of you weren't either. But nonetheless, here we are, okay? And look, if you're on the forums, the obsession with the best has not stopped, right? Well, I've been filming this, at least 6 people have posted videos asking, here's my situation. I need the perfect folding knife for skinning buffalo while skydiving and whitewater rafting. It has to weigh under 4 ounces. It has to have blade steel that never goes dull. I like these materials. I like this kind of handle. They give us the specs and then say, make me some recommendations. That's just one of the things. You'll just see it every single day. There's another one. All right. And so we like doing that, and I think it's fun for everybody, right? It's fun for the person who gets a bunch of advice and can go shopping, and maybe I'd be curious to know how many people, after making a post like that, actually go out and buy something. While we're sitting here, let me say the knives I've got on the table right now. This is the Benchmade Super Freak. This is the Riot Knives Torrent. This is the Steel Will Apostate. I already mentioned the Rat Model 1. I'll try to every once in a while stop and tell you what knives you're looking at, because otherwise I'll get a bunch of people asking down in the comments. So thinking of people asking about knives, this is the Real Steel Lynx. YouTubers love to make the best of lists. And by the way, it's not their fault. You love to watch them. If you want to get a bunch of views and you're making knife videos, you need to put best in the title. The best tactical folder, the best this, the best that, top 10, whatever. And you guys just love that stuff. And it's fun to speculate, I think. And so everybody gets to enjoy it. But the fact is, we've got this idea that somewhere out there, there's going to be like the best knife. And right now, we've just been able to look at all of the new stuff for 2021, or at least the stuff that they're currently telling us about. A number of companies have sort of stopped giving us their full year's releases. But what we're looking at is, hey, how good is this? Is this going to be the next big thing? Is this going to be more perfect than whatever my current perfect knife is? By the way, this is the Civivi Shredder, just to... Again, every time I bring in a new knife, I'm going to try to stop and let you know what it is. And so, we've seen a bunch of cool stuff that's coming out this year, and we want to know, is it going to be the best? I also think that most of us know that if it was just about that one perfect knife, we would have long since stopped, okay? Frankly, any one of the knives that are sitting here on the camera right now, so this is the Steel Will Apostate, the Riot Torrent, the Real Steel Will Apostate, Real Steel, Lynx, Civivi Shredder, Benchmade Super Freak, Rat Model 1. Let's move these guys out of the way and we'll bring in a couple of more. Here is the Chris Reeve Knives in Cosi. Here's the Spyderco Manix 2 Lockback. Here is the Cold Steel 8010. Here is the Spyderco Paramilitary 2, Cold Steel American Lawman. What else have I got? Spyderco Amalgam. All right, and again, I would say that about these knives as well. I've got a Recon one here that I haven't gotten in the picture. There you go. So now you've seen all the knives that I've got to make this video with, and any one of these, right? If all of a sudden every single knife I owned vanished, you could never buy another folding knife. You were stuck with that particular knife forever and ever. You know, if I had any of the knives on the table here in my pocket, it would be fine, right? They're all great knives, and really they're all nearly perfect knives. They're fantastic. All right, so could I have long since, could I have just bought the American Lawman and then stopped and never bought another knife? Absolutely. Right? This thing is it is basically perfect. It's a fantastic knife. Probably my single most recommended knife is the American Lawman. It is so, so good. And so, yeah, could I have just bought that and then stopped buying knives? Or could I have stopped at this one or this one or this one or this one or this one? Yeah, of course. All right. No, I hope no one thinks that they just need all of these knives. And certainly I'm not under that impression myself. All right. That said, and so yeah, I have argued before, and I stand by the argument that there are lots of perfect knives, right? That if you need a knife that's tough and works and it's comfortable to use and easy to deploy, there's tons of them out there. Right? The things that make a perfect or a really good folding knife, they're not that hard to identify and to make. They're really not. And so with all of the great knives out there, it's extremely likely that, is it likely, I should say, okay, with all of these knives already in existence, right? All the ones we've talked about and many, many more that we've had on this channel and many more that are out there that I haven't had on the channel. Is it likely that this year, 2021, some knife is going to come along and just blow everything here out of the water, where I'm going to be like, nope, nothing is as good as this. Nothing compares to this. This is just the best thing that's ever been conceived of. No, right? There's very little chance of that happening, because these are great knives and they're not going to stop being great because something slightly different comes along. In fact, what I would really love to, what I really hope for in 2021 is that a bunch of knives just as good as these come out. All right, and frankly, if we all somehow forgot how to make knives, right, and you could only get existing models, there would be no need unmet, right? Think about this for a second. All right, if you need, an EDC knife that's lightweight and strong, it's slim, it's comfortable in hand, it's good for the outdoors, or it's good for the office, or it's good for self-defense, if it needs to be rust-proof, or good for food prep, or for skinning, or processing fish, for cutting into coconuts, right? Whatever the case may be, whatever your perfect knife is, whatever your needs are, it's already out there. Right? In fact, as I cycle through that list, there are multiple options under every single one of those headings that would be fantastic. All right, and not only that, but those options, kind of keep on getting cheaper and cheaper. You don't even need to spend a lot of money. Think of some of the budget stuff I've got here. The Shredder as well is quite good. Now, this knife is more expensive, but for what it's delivering, right? This is an extremely, what would you say? It feels extremely high end, right? Everything about this knife says this should cost a lot of money, and it costs a couple $100, but compared to, for what it does and compared to other knives with similar features, it's a very budget option. And so you can not only get all those things, but you can get them for a very reasonable price. All right, now that kind of demands the question, should we give up then, right? When we go, well, after Cold Steel made the American Lawman, does that mean no more knives need to be made? We can stop this train and everybody get off? Of course not, right? Should manufacturers quit manufacturing? No, because there's always joy in stuff that's new and different and innovative. And look, there may not be a much better mousetrap, okay, but a different mousetrap is cool and welcome, especially if it's in titanium with Mokutai bolsters and a zirconium backspacer. All right, so do we need to stop making knives? Of course not. And we need to keep coming out with knives because, after all, you can't just be like, okay, well, hopefully everyone buys a Manix 2 lockback because that's our only knife, right? You got to keep doing it. You can't be like, well, we did one good knife and now we're finished. You got to keep making new stuff if you want to stay in business, because you need people to keep buying your stuff if you're going to continue to have profits, right? Unless you're Spyderco, and then you can just make the same knife over and over again with a slightly different, a different steel and a different color, and you're golden. But everybody else has to make new stuff all the time, right? Now, let me say this. Well, I pick on Spyderco a little bit. I also have to give them a lot of credit because they've done some crazy stuff, which is really, really nice. Think about the Spyderco Ikuchi. If someone showed me a picture of that knife and said, would you want this knife? Do you think we should make it? If I was on the board at Spyderco or in product development or R&D, I would look at that and go, no, that's a dumb idea. Who even thought this was something that you should bother with? Just throw that in the scrap pile. But when I got the Ikuchi and started using it and carrying it a little bit, it's fantastic, right? So taking those risks and doing something a little outside of the normal is really, really worthwhile and has produced some great stuff. Spyderco, I think, is one of the more well-known companies for this. Like, you think about the Subvert, you think about some of this stuff from, I'm trying to think of the maker now. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Spyderco has a lot of really weird different knives out there that are surprisingly functional. Now, that puppy knife is the dumbest thing I've ever seen, but good on them for making it, right? I'm not going to buy one, but at least if somebody wants to, they can. And perhaps, by making a knife like that, right, they learn something, or there's some new development innovation on it that they can implement in other places. All right. So that's kind of cool, and I actually kind of love the companies who are willing to make stuff that they know some people are going to hate. Like, think about the giant cold steels. How many people, the vast majority of knife users are going to look at that and go, well, that's dumb. It won't fit in my pocket. Like, I can't do anything useful with it. It's insane to even make this. But Cold Steel doesn't care, and they just make them, and I kind of love them for it, right? I don't own a lot of them, but certainly I have reviewed a few on the channel, and they're great. Okay, it's awesome that they do that. And there are other companies. Real Steel, I have to admit, does some really interesting stuff, and so does Reich Knives. There's a couple of Reich Knives that are really different and don't seem like they'd be widely appealing, but they're fantastic. All right, Riyadh has done a few. Liang Ma has some really out there knives where you look at it and go, what made you think that would be a good idea? But by all accounts, they work really, really well. I haven't reviewed them all and stuff like that, but again, there are lots of cool knives out there that get made because companies are like, hey, let's try something new. Let's try to be innovative. Let's try to be different. And that is very welcome. Now, I'm also happy to see, a knife like this is a reasonably new model, but it's not doing anything crazy. It's got a lock that we already love, a blade shape that's very safe, a pretty standard handle. I like that, and I hope that continues, right? Even a knife like this, the 8010, it's great for all those reasons. It's a very standard knife. And so, yes, has the perfect knife already been invented? For sure, more than once. And no doubt it will be again this year and next year. And that's great news because we get tons of great stuff, and we get all those great options at different price points and with different steels and with different handles and locks, so that we can really find the thing that most perfectly suits us and our needs. And I think that is a win. All right. And so, by the way, what we can also do is, when you look at a bunch of knives, like all of the knives that I have here on the table, they really work. Like, they're fairly well balanced. There's nothing that's really bad about them. And so I would like to say, if you're buying knives, if you're making knives, look at that stuff that really works well and model that. All right. Use it to know, hey, this works. On the other hand, the stuff that doesn't work, avoid that stuff. My one wish is that when I think about this, is that companies would embrace the good stuff and not make the same mistakes over and over again. But I'm sure they will, right? I think recently I got a knife. I'm trying to think. I remember saying it in a video that had a deep carry clip, right? So a deep carry clip like this, but without the flush screws. And it's like, okay, why are we still talking about this? I wish people would be like, oh yeah, this is there's a solution to this. We already know what it is. And so yeah, don't buy that stuff. Let's as a market speak to the manufacturers and say, hey, quit making dumb stuff because we're not going to buy it. That would be a big help. And hopefully as manufacturers, there are kind of a lot of known mistakes that we don't need to be making anymore. I'd love to know down in the comments again what your perfect knife is, what you look for, and in the new stuff, how do you know when you're looking at something that just came out, you haven't had a chance to have it in hand, you haven't had a chance even maybe to watch any reviews about it, you're just looking at the specs and at some pictures. How do you know what's good? How do you know what you're most interested in? I certainly know, I've actually covered all this in a couple of previous videos, so I'm not going to go into my own preferences here, but I'd love to hear yours. Again, I'll remind you, check the description box of the channel. There are channel sponsors down there, and using those links does help me out a lot and allow me to keep making this kind of content. God bless. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.